NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm delighted to be joined with Jack, who is in Bristol, England. So we're doing Los Angeles to Bristol today, which is amazing, with your fantastic film Lost Time. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. Pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, pleasure to be here with you. I wish my plants were as healthy as yours. I just love it in the background. But listen, thank you so much for bringing your film to us at New Filmmakers LA. Honestly, it was just such an experience, and I was just so happy you made a film like this. But for those that haven't seen your film, let's take a look at a clip.
As long as I have you beside me, I can bear this pain. Want me, need me, as I need you, and I can bear this pain. Our bodies touch, we become as one, and for precious moments, I forget this pain. That's that one.
Where did the inspiration come for you in creating this particular documentary?
So it was something I thought about when the pandemic kicked off, these kind of social institutions that hold together communities. And I was returning to the UK for having been away for a good few years. So bingo clubs kind of came to mind, and these old people that would just they would close, and what would they do? Where would they go? And there's bridge clubs, there's all these clubs, and my dad actually plays bowls, and he played bowls from kind of mid-age, and I just kind of tapped him up to see if he had any interesting stories, looking to do just a kind of a sporting vignette of a bowls person. But it quickly I became aware that those two streams of thought could combine. So I was introduced to John as a 92-year-old that held his own on the bowls green, and I thought in itself that's quite an interesting story, and to highlight these elderly gentlemen down at the club. And I spoke to John on the phone back in October of 2020, and after the first call, I quickly realized that there was a story to be told about his struggle with the pandemic and his relationship to his friends, and how he dealt with the loss of his wife through his friendships and grieved with those guys down there. So after the first call, I just knew that I was going to start recording those calls and hopefully try and piece together a piece of narrative from there.
Jack, I just love your film so much. Like, I really, really do. I can't imagine what one goes through being, with your loved one for that amount of many years, and that loss, that especially obviously so soon, and then on top of that, this pandemic, and like, it's the time when you really want your loved ones close to you, and I don't think we can really appreciate that. Not to mention, you're at a point in your life where maybe, you see that there's not too many years in front of you now, and like, you want to enjoy life as much as possible, and none of us know, but like, I felt it was just, I don't know what he would have done without just this incredible group of friends and bowls, and how we need things in life to kind of keep us motivated and going, and the banter, the whole British banter, I just love to sort of see as well. What was it like? I mean, when you're working with your subject like this, like, you're really asking them to be honest and to share, and obviously in this case, poetry and all kinds of stuff that was involved in this project. How do you work with your subject, and how do you approach them, in terms of what when you're actually making this particular documentary?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I mean, I was born and raised in Bedford, and that Bedford male character, if I was to stereotype it in a way, it's kind of, a hard exterior, not really has any depth when it comes to emotions, shrugs off hard times, and that was just the generation above it, and John's a child of the war, like, so he's a generation above that. So to go into that film, I was managing my expectations of how deep we might be able to get with John.
Yeah.
And so it's about gaining trust, right? And it's in any situation, if you're working a narrative, but especially in documentary, you go to someone and you say, look, I want to tell a story about you. I don't really know what that's going to be yet, but then you have to get the trust. But working with John and speaking with John over the phone was like speaking to a relative. He was exactly the same as, you know, my granddad and my dad and his friends and the guys I kind of grew up and was shaped by. So I was quite easily able to gain that trust and explain the process of what I wanted to do with it, which was to almost do a kind of mixture of scripted and verite kind of documentary filmmaking. Now, yeah. John said he got it, and you know, whether or not he fully understood the way in which we would deliver this film, I'm not sure, but he knew, he trusted me, and he trusted that I would be able to take his story and put it onto a piece of film. Yeah. But I think, you know, his wife's poetry features throughout the film. We kind of use that as a piece of structure. And I think that was on about the 6th or 7th call I had with John, that it was time to ask if he could read me some of his wife's poetry. And, you know, that stuff takes time. If you go in on the 2nd, 3rd call, then this Bedford hard exterior probably wouldn't do it. But it's just, it is time. And fortunately, we had loads of that during the pandemic, that I was able to get close to him and speak to him every week, every Friday.
And how is it, you know, bringing it into, you know, because obviously I'm sure they're not used to many cameras being around at the Bowls Club. You know, what was that experience like for all of his comrades, you know, as well?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, the film is shot primarily in his house for the first 2/3, but then we obviously see John reunited with his friends at the Bowls Club, and that's the Bowls Club I would go down and watch my dad play bowls. So I knew a few of the characters down there. So it was I knew what it was going to be like, and it was exactly like I'd envisioned it. You know, yeah. I knew they would erupt in applause, and you know, there's shouts and there's whooping going on, and they're not used to that stuff. And we had a 60mm film camera and soundies, and it was a new experience for them. It was a new experience for John. He loved it. He loved seeing. Good. I think John was most amazed about how much time the craft took. Yeah. And when we rocked up to his with, you know, an M18 and big diffusion panels, and he really was. The one thing he said to me, he's so glad to have had that experience, to experience the filmmaking process. But at the club, I just hoped that some form of dialogue with this British banter would ensue. And yeah. Of course, I think the first 2 minutes of the film when we're at the club is just a one cut of dialogue that
brilliant,
even right.
Yeah, it's just great to watch, because I know these characters as well. I know Bedford. I know, you know, I really understand it all. It's really. I mean, you couldn't have, you know, predicted better. It was perfect. You know, making a project like this, you know, can go in many different ways. You really don't know how a documentary is going to articulate like this, because there's a lot of emotion there. There's loss. There's, you know, a lot of different things. And, you know, these guys are completely so natural, just being who they are, but they reacted so well on camera. What did you kind of want your audience to take from your film?
As a kid, I used to always struggle when I saw elderly people on their own. You know, the world has many things for us to kind of get down on and feel compassionate for. But whenever I saw an elderly person by themselves, that really got to me as a kid. And yeah. Something that I've continued to kind of be aware of, volunteering my time and stuff, trying to just have conversations with the elderly population, because they have so much to give, and they are, as sad as it is, they are kind of shunned away, especially in many parts of the Western world. They are shunned away, and they're kind of the forgotten generation. Yeah. John has so much to say, and so much to tell, that I wanted the audience to look at what the pandemic would be like from a person in their 90s. As you mentioned earlier, you know, these people don't have a lot of time left. John says it himself, you know, at his time of life, he has to take advantage of all this time. I wanted them to take that away, but also it was about a collective awareness of what we've all gone through. And, you know, I did this film as a note to the pandemic for myself. You know, John was sat at home on his own. I was sat in, you know, this room by myself, having those conversations with John. So it was a collective awareness of what we've all been through, but with a particular spotlight on the elderly generation. I think it is, pick up the phone and have those conversations with the elderly people you've got around you, because they've lived so much more of a life than we have, and they've got so many more tales. So just to take the time.
100%, and I think we need to see more films with elderly people, both in the script form and in documentary form as well. And I think because it's a reminder of how we need to be better as human beings towards our elders, and support. And if people are on their own, just be a good, kind person, outreach, do what we can. I think it's very important. So I love that you focused in on that. What was I know you're just putting this out there to festivals. What's it been like putting out to festivals for you, and how's that experience been?
Yeah, the experience so far. I mean, this is my first film. So this is my third film. The second film is currently in production. That's a feature, so that hasn't made the circuit yet. My first film was aired on TV in New Zealand, so we took a slightly different route to getting it out there. So this is the first one that's done the festival circuit. It's doing well. It's doing well so far. But this is the first premiere with New Filmmakers Los Angeles, and like I said to you, yes, but I'm honored. I really am honored, because, like I said, it's such a nurturing framework to have as a festival. I know there's a lot of festivals out there that give you some laurels and away you go, and this one, for me to kind of meet the other filmmakers who have kind of blown me away throughout this week, with how they've kind of conducted themselves, but also just seeing their films yesterday was incredible. So it's great. I'm looking forward to finally getting out there. I mean, the thing with these things is you put stuff on social media, grabs and stuff like this, and everyone wants to know where they can watch them. And
I know.
Yeah,
it'll
be great to kind of put it out there.
We gotta follow you, Jack. We gotta keep in connection with you. Thanks for your kind words. We'll never let you go, Jack. It's basically, I just realized, actually, I wasn't trying to quote a Titanic, but it just sort of came out. But anyway, we will never let you go. I won't let you go. Rosemary did, but I won't. But anyways, listen, we've been so honored to have your film with us. But just to finalize on what is next for you, because I see you're working on another project.
Yeah. So we are working on Honest Without Fear. That's a feature documentary that's a German production. We've been working on that since early 2020. We've had some developments there. We got funded by Hessen Film Commission, and we've had some developments. It's probably going to be in production for the rest of this year, and we're hopefully going to have that out in 2023. But that's a feature. It follows the story of a Syrian refugee who fled his country, arrived in Germany, and actually then competed at the Tokyo Olympics. Which was a compelling story as it is. But then we had some developments this year that have kind of slightly changed tack and mean that we'll have to film for longer, but we'll hopefully have a product that's even more compelling.
Jack, I'm ready for the next one. That sounds so fantastic, honestly. And I love that because, goodness me, there was a lot of, refugees that came into Germany as well. And I've always been fascinated of how their story has been since they moved to Germany. So this is brilliant. Well done, you. Thank you for being part of our film festival. Thank you so much for bringing your film to us. And, best wishes to everybody at the Bowls Club, because they stole the show massively so. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny. And thanks all of New Filmmakers. It's been an amazing experience.